Hello, everybody.
Greetings, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our webinar this evening. There might be some more people coming in as we go, but we're going to get started. You are all on mute for now. We are going to have some questions a bit later, and at that point, you can unmute yourself or just use the chat box. Some of you have already said that your audio isn't working from your side. That's absolutely fine. You can still use the chat box option. So without further ado, I'm just going to quickly give you all the agenda for how our webinar is going to work. We'll introduce ourselves in a moment, and then Ryan and I will just give you some information just on the basic structure of how the teacher training is going to work and the different options, how you can do it. Then we're going to have some questions. This is part 1, and then we're going to repeat for part 2. We're going to give you some information on the modules, and then we'll have some time for questions. So if your question can wait, then let us just finish what we have to say, because we might even answer it. And then you can also just write it in the chat box if you feel you're going to forget it, or write it down on your notepad. So we'll definitely get through all the questions this evening. So I'm Fran, for those that don't know me, and I'm very excited to be offering this teacher training, advanced training with Ryan. It's been in the pipeline for a very long time. And yeah, it's just finally come together, and very beautifully, very naturally, and we are just completely excited about this, really in the throes of it all. I personally am still teaching yoga online. My studio had to, because of COVID, go online. And yeah, I just get into teacher trainings a bit more now with the 300-hour. I also offer my own 200-hour trainings. I know most of you know Ryan through your own 200-hour. So he's not a new face to you. But yeah, and I hope to get to know you as the training goes on.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Nice to see all of your faces. So Fran is the new face for you all, and I'm like the old, familiar, boring face. But it's lovely to see everybody. And thank you so much for taking this time to connect with us tonight. It's really, really wonderful to have you all here. You're all coming in at different levels, and that's great. This is really just an information about what to expect in a further advanced training. Some of you are already qualified. Trish is a qualified teacher. Janine is close to graduating. Annie, Ellen, and just bring up everyone's face. Annie, Ellen and Diana are all busy with their trainings at the moment. It's lovely to see you. Annie, it's lovely to see your face for the first time. Hello. And Shalani as well. Shalani is also busy with her training at the moment. So everyone's at a different level, and we're all just here to learn about what is next as a yoga teacher or as a yogi. So before we even begin with this, we're going to just do a little centering exercise just to bring us all together. So wherever you are, whether your screen is on or off, just sit nice and tall for us, and place your hands onto the navel point and close the eyes. And just allow yourself to sit with a straight spine. And just allow yourself to take a nice deep breath in and suspend the breath for a moment. And as you exhale through the mouth, just let go of some weight from the day. And 2 more times. That weight can be physical, mental, emotional, or something else. And let that exhale be audible as you just let it go. And as you're just doing this, finishing your last breath now, just allowing yourself to release any heaviness, anything that doesn't serve you, anything that's holding you back from being present. Feel yourself connecting to the surface that you're sitting on, just anchoring to the physical and bringing yourself into present space. And let's all just bring our hands together at the heart point, and let's chant one Om together, taking a deep breath. Okay, welcome everybody. So it's nice chanting with Fran. I forgot how much fun that is. So, all right, why do a 300-hour teacher training certification? You know, those of you who've already studied with me, all of you, you know that there's only a 200-hour training is beautiful because you can, by the time you've finished, you can teach anywhere in the world. But those of you who've done the whole course already, you will know that there's certain topics that you just don't have time to sink into. You don't have time to dive down into the juice of it. I think out of everyone sitting here in this webinar at the moment, Trisha's done the training a couple of years ago already, and she could quite easily speak to, you know, how much she still continued her development in her own time after done her training. When I did my training, it was a full 500 hours in one go, and it allowed us to really sink into the material. And that was the original way the ISHTA training was done. I separated it out into level 1 and level 2 to provide people the opportunity to pace their training and to integrate it organically. Then Fran and I decided to collaborate for the 300 hours because there's some knowledge that I have which she can present much better than I can, and there's some knowledge that she has that maybe I'm not bad on presenting, and she's just giving me the space to talk. So I feel like we're combining two powerful forces with our knowledge together, because we want to give you the best of our combined knowledge. And we've studied in many schools and lineages over the years. So, you know, when you're doing your 200-hour training, you're acquiring the vocabulary, you're learning the lexicon, you're wrapping your mouth around the Sanskrit words. You know, you all know how it is, all these big Adha Mukha Svanasnas and, you know, major philosophies that you've got to grasp, and you're applying the Ayurveda into your lifestyle, and you're learning how to teach something. That's a lot of work. Now, once you've done that, now you're diving, now you take a deep dive down. And by now, you know the vocabulary, you understand the philosophy, and now you really drink the juice out of the entire yogic, the yogic system. You can really sit with it. And so the way we've designed it is to be done over 9 months or more. You know, Fran will go into that just now. Which really gives you an opportunity to go nicely into it. So Fran gave a nice analogy the other day. Doing your 200-hour training is like, how did you word it? It's like flying over the mountains in an airplane. And then doing your 300-hour is flying just above the valleys and the rivers. You're getting more idea of the terrain, and you're able to really not only, because to be honest with you, I feel like most people, when they're doing the 200-hour, there's a balance between applying it in your own life, like, whoa, the stuff is amazing and I want to apply it in my life, and also then realizing I'm also trying to teach this to other people. There's a little bit of like a both happening. By the time you finish your 200-hour training and you're going into 300, the focus is on the other. It's on your student. It's on training, and by then you've already assimilated into your own personal life the yogic teachings. So it's going deeper. It's going deeper. It's diving further than what you could ever have done in any 200-hour training in the world, and it gives you the opportunity to really, really to practice.
And that being said, it's still going to be an incredible transformational journey for yourself. So even if you're not necessarily looking at teaching full on after your 200-hour, and you still want to learn a bit more, then you're absolutely welcome to do the 300-hour. The prerequisite for the 300-hour advanced training is the 200-hour, because you need that knowledge that Ryan's just spoken about. However, you don't necessarily need to step in with the idea of wanting to continue to teach or even to start teach. It can really just be for your own spiritual development and personal growth, because there's a lot. Like the analogy of flying over the mountains. Oh, that's a nice landscape. It's almost in 2D because you're quite far away from it. You're getting a sense of what's there. But when you start to go lower or deeper with that aeroplane, you have to go over and through the valleys. You maybe get a sense of the temperature and what trees are there, and are there people, and what the landscape's like. So that's kind of one of the ways that we think of it. All right, so how can it work? So you're wanting to do your 200 or 300-hour advanced training. You've got two options. You can choose to do it over 1 year with us or over 2 years. Now, if you're doing it over 1 year, you have to do at least 6 modules within that 1 year, because that's the prerequisite, one of the prerequisites to certify. All right. So you can do all 8 if you have the time, but that's why we also gave the 2-year option, because maybe you want to do all 8 modules, which will be great. Actually, we have structured the course so that the content is in these nice sizable chunks, that when you finish, you'll have a wonderful idea on going into that landscape. So if you're doing it over the 2-year period, within the 2 years, you have to complete at least 6 modules. So whether it's 1 year or 2 years, at least 6 modules. You can do 7, you can do 8. Okay, so we'll talk about the full 1 year immersion or the module by module breakdown. How that relates to payment and payment plans. If you're doing the 1 year immersion, then you have an option to pay in full if you have that money available now, or you can do it in 3 installments throughout the year. Your first installment is your deposit. Now, if you're doing the module by module model, that's either through over 1 year or 2 years, then you're paying per module. Deposit, half of that, just secures your spot, and then every module, a month before they start, you have to have paid up in full. So that's a lot more manageable in chunk size amounts, if you like to think of it in time and in finances. So just to recap that, you can do the training over 1 year, in which case you have the option of paying in full or in your 3 installments, or you do the training over 2 years, module by module, and then you can pay per module. All right.
How do the 3 installments work?
Okay, so those 3 installments are just for the 1 year option. Your first installment is your deposit. So that secures your spot. It's a third of the price, or a third of your total costs of that training. And then 3 months later, your second installment, 3 months later, your third installment. Of course, like with anything, if you're able to pay up in full, it's the cheapest option. Okay, payment plans just a little bit more.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys can ask questions about anything when we break for the questions and answers just now. Just keep a note of your questions, all right? And we'll come back to money if you want to discuss that. All right, Fran, what do you need to certify this course?
So, like I've said, but to summarize now, just for certification, you have to have done at least 6 of the modules. Now, to have successfully completed a module, you need an 80% minimum pass rate. This is broken down into the sessions that we do over the weekends, your self-study, your research assignments. And then you have to have attended the 4-day retreat, which happens at the end of the year. So if you want to certify this year, it's going to be in November. If you want to certify next year, it'll also be at the end of the year. We just haven't plugged the dates for that yet.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really nice to have the option. I must be honest. If I could have had the option to split my training over 2 years, I probably would have done it that way, because it was a lot going, flat out. My training was every week for 1.5 years. I think it's really nice to have the option to split it up between 1 or 2 years, and also for travel as well, for those of you who want to travel. Yeah.
So just to summarize on that, it really is, we've done this with the consideration of all the different types of people. Some people like the immersions. They like to just do everything in one go. If you have the time, if you have the resources or finance as well, and that's how you learn best, jump in and do it all 8 in a row. However, if you maybe have a day job and you really can't put more than a weekend or 3, as you'll need per module, and you need to stagger it over the few months, over the 2 years, then that's why we've made this available as well. So hopefully the way we've structured it, there is a tick in a box You can choose one of those options for you.
So what's really nice is the way we've designed it specifically is we've set out 8 subjects, and you can choose what subjects you want to do. So like Janine emailed us the other day and she said, okay, in year 1, I want to do this subject, this subject, this subject, and this subject. And then we've got those subject dates, and we'll send them to you guys again after this, but they're on our websites. You can say, okay, in March, I want to do yoga philosophy. In May, I want to do this. In July, I want to do that. You can decide. You can decide where you want those. They're like credits, right? And I say it's like being at Hogwarts. You get to just like choose all these magical subjects. And how would each module look? So it's different to the way in which people have trained with me in the 200 hours, where one module is 3 long weekends, right? And then kind of the assignments came after that. Now, what you're doing is it's 2 weekends in the month. So if here's your month, weekend 1, weekend 2. Both of those weekends consist of the lectures online. They will be pre-recorded. So if you miss a lecture, it's fine. You can watch that video later. You do Saturday, Sunday, you do Saturday, Sunday. And then you've got 2 weeks to do prescribed readings, to do a small research assignment. There might be a case study for that module. And so it's basically 50% lectures and 50% self-study. So the amount of time that you have to put into this kind of interaction is not that, it's not as intense as your level 1 training. Yeah.
Just to clarify, those weekends that are the 50% with us, they are live with us. However, if you can't make a small little section, you can catch it up. Bear in mind, you only have a month to do that module. So the way we have put it, if you could stick to that schedule would be best. Try not leave things too late in the week to do another catch-up recording from the weekend, because there's still going to be your assignments, your case studies, and your research, your self-research, which is why we suggest trying to complete a module within that month. Even though the option of the recordings is there, just try to keep the pace going so that you don't feel overwhelmed if you do want to complete within the 1 year.
Yeah. So we are going to open up to questions now. We're gonna, if you have a question, just take your microphone off and let us know, or just say hello to us.
Yeah.
Anybody like to ask a question, something that's on their mind?
Hi there. Yeah, I've got a question.
Hello, Annie.
Hello. Nice to meet you properly, kind of properly. Yeah, so there's 8 modules altogether, and you said if you're doing it over 2 years that you had to do 6 modules in the first year and 6 in the second, or maybe I misheard that, because that adds up to 12, which is more than 8.
Fran will answer that one for you.
All right, thank you for the question. It can be a bit confusing. So if you're doing it over 2 years, then you still have to do 6 modules at least. We highly recommend you do all 8 modules, and then you split them. So you'll do 4 this year and 4 next year. However, you only need 6 modules, so you can do 3 this year and 3 next year.
Okay.
Or 4 this year, 2 next year. You've got 2 years to get your credits, and you need 6 module credits at least. We recommend full 8, but you can split it as you like.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Annie, it's a 300-hour teacher training, and each module is 50 hours. So you can just think of it like that. One module is 50 hours. You need at least 6 to have 300.
Yeah.
But some people want to do 8. They just because they want to learn more. So does that answer your question for you?
It does. It does.
Thank you. It's a terrific question. Anything else from your side?
Yeah, just sorry. I'll get my other little one out of the way. So you said that you can choose when you want to do the modules, but then at the same time you also said that the lectures could be live. So presumably, you have to choose a time when the lectures are live. So you don't really choose when you do your module. But not that I mind. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, good. That's great. So thank you again, because it can be unclear as well. So the choosing your modules would be, if you're choosing to do it over 2 years, you can choose to do the anatomy, advanced anatomy, either this year or next year. So that's where the choice comes.
Yeah.
And yes, within that month that you have committed, there are certain times that we highly recommend that you are present for, and that would be that live lecture time with us on the first 2 weekends of that month.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a structure so that we can just keep the pace going, and within that you have enough flexibility, we hope, to so that it's still manageable. So the other 50% of a module, so you've got the 50% time with us that we recommend you come to, and then the other 50% you can choose to just commit to the next 2 weekends for that, or you can fit it in during the week. So there's a lot more freedom of choice of when you do your self-study, your assignments, your case studies, your reading.
Thanks.
Thanks, Annie.
Cool.
Ellen?
Yeah, I think you've answered my question now as well. It was just, I just wanted to confirm that it's not like, I guess, what, Annie and I have been doing now is sort of just, we're like way behind. We're like 2-3 months behind everyone who did the live classes now. So it's obviously quite different to that, in that you'd sort of more or less need to be, with everyone doing it at the same kind of time, except for like if you miss a recording, you might catch up just a few days later, but it's still within that month.
Yeah, no, you don't have to worry about it. So if, let's say, for instance, this training is starting in March, you can join in September if you want. You can say, okay, I'm only going to start in September when I've finished my 200-hour training, and September's module will be mantra and sound, for instance. So that's when I'm going to start my training. And that would begin as your first year from September. All right, so it's at the beginning of your academic year. That would start as year number 1 for you. So you don't have to start it when we all start. Each module is completely separate unto itself. And then right at the end, you say, hey, Ryan and Fran, I've done 6 of your modules. Can I graduate now? And we say, yes, you're good to go.
So just to clarify on that, some people might just want to do, let's say some friends of yours that are yoga teachers, for example, they just want to do advanced pranayama. That is seen as a call. To certify as an advanced teacher, you need to have done 6 of the modules and have done the retreat with us. So that's why we also put it like this, so that it can also be open if you just want to do a specific module, and then let's say over 4 years you've got enough of the modules, and then you choose, okay, I want to certify now and get that advanced certification, the 300-hour advanced certification. Each module is a 50-hour certification in itself. But to get your overall advanced certification, your level 2, you have to have done the 300 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense, guys? Are we explaining it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is the retreat, is that just once a year? There's just one option for the retreat. So if, for example, you missed it, you'd wait another year before you do that again.
So yeah, so this year there's just one option, and then we'll know closer to the end of this year if next year we're going to have 1 or 2. We are looking at 2 for next year, 2 options, but we just don't have dates yet, so we don't want to say too much. There will definitely be 1, of course, but we're looking at putting another one as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's just been difficult this year with all the COVID and the traveling, as you guys already know from your work that you're doing with Trish and I on the 200 hours, how difficult it is to kind of plan those things. But we, we're here, we're talking together, and we can have a conversation. So if there's enough people who want to do it at a different date, like if you and Annie want to fly in and we've got enough people that want to do it in, let's say, March, for instance, next year, we would definitely consider having that. Yeah. So we're quite flexible to that. Okay. Any other questions?
And yeah, I've got another one. I'm particularly interested in chair yoga. I think I mentioned that to you in an email or something, Ryan. I just wondered, is there any focus on like adaptive yoga or chair yoga specifically?
Cool, great question. So Annie, we cover that in the special demographics module. We look at assisting. We put it under assisting the elderly, but it doesn't have to only be for the elderly. And we also put it in when we're looking at stiff bodies and certain athletes. So we do cover going into using the chair as a prop.
Right.
Very, very relevant. Not everybody's able to wrap themselves into a pretzel position and be comfortable there. So yeah, we do go into that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's actually a form of yoga that's becoming very popular, Annie.
It is. I'm becoming aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm working with my students and clients, I'll pop in a chair class every now and then. Even if everybody is able to sit on the floor and have hips that are very open and backs that are nice and lengthened, I'll always bring a chair class in, and they love it. They love it.
Yeah.
So should we jump into the module by module breakdown?
I think
and then we'll go for questions.
Okay. So save the rest of your questions, guys, for just now, round 2 of your questions, or just type them in the question box and we can answer them as well. By the way, I'm not this short. I'm sitting on a bouncy ball. So if you wondered if I was really, really short, those of you who haven't met me. Okay, so we're going to break down the modules for you for this year and how they would look. I'm going to email you all after this webinar, and then you'll have it all in black and white. So you don't have to worry to focus. Just absorb basically what we're saying. So the first 2 weekends of March, March is the month of advanced yoga philosophy. We're going to be covering 2 really in-depth aspects. The first weekend, we're going to dive really deep into the essence of the Yoga Sutras in a way that you would never have done it anywhere else before. We're really diving into Patanjali's theories of meditation in the mind. This is the original psychology. And the second weekend is an overview essence of the medieval yoga text called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is like the yoga teacher's Bible for those who are really serious about yogic practice. Cool.
Yeah. And then April is the only month that we're not starting on the first weekend of the month, just because of the Easter holidays. For those that, I think all of us live in countries that stick to those dates. So we're starting on the second weekend of April. So we're going to be diving into advanced anatomy or applied anatomy. We're going to be looking at the muscle lines in the body, the big muscle groups, the joints, and then also we're going to be looking at fascia. And this is one of my most favorite topics in the world. It's absolutely relevant. More and more research is coming out about it. It's basically your connective tissue and how it's a whole nother system in the body. And then we're going to actually be applying fascia release into postures, especially with yin yoga or more of restorative yoga. When we're looking just at the general anatomy, we're obviously going to be looking at how to apply that to postures as well. And what's most fascinating with it is that we learn that one size does not fit all. So we're going to be actually looking at different body types and how to apply it there. So it's a lovely introduction, actually. Well, not even an introduction, but it's a lovely stepping stone to looking at special demographics, because you get a very good understanding of the body, and then you see why you can't have the one size fits all, especially when you guiding people through their postures. Yeah, so then we're also going to look at how to assess somebody's body. So it's just a general body assessment that you can do with your eyes without having to give them the whole question and answer as they walk into your class. But you'll be able to just be a bit more empowered, knowing that they're this kind of a body type, or their muscles are quite stiff here or very flexible here, and then how to apply your guidance to them.
I think this module should be compulsory, to be honest with you, because it's really, really important. And although it's not compulsory, even I'm attending this one. I'm very excited about it. Fran's knowledge on anatomy and physiology is fantastic. So it's definitely one that everyone's going to want to do. Then we go in the month of May. May's month is yoga in the professional context. So this month, I'm going to be lecturing on every single thing that you're going to want to know about yoga and business, yoga and money, everything from running retreats to doing corporate wellness days to anything that you would want to know professionally in the field of yoga. you know, so much of these courses, we've tried to keep this course quite balanced between the spiritual and metaphysical and philosophical, and then the very pragmatic aspects of being a yoga teacher. Because otherwise you just walk off of the course with all this knowledge, and then you still got to learn the actual industry, if you want to use that term that we're stuck with. So, so I'll be going into yoga, money, and business. I'm going to be working on a very specific niche angle in that module, and it's doing business as a yogi, right? So we believe that our yogic morals and ethics, the yamas and the niyamas, should be applied in our professional contexts as well. So you're not just a yoga teacher on the mat and then a business person over here. You're a yogi doing business, and so we apply those ethics and those morals into our business demographics. So that's going to be quite interesting. We're going into like the shadow of money and everyone's personal shadows regarding money as well. How to set up professional boundaries when it comes to clients, how to manage your energy. What makes a good teacher, what makes a good facilitator in a corporate environment versus in a retreat environment. Between the two of us, we've got probably 40 years of experience combined on that. So it's going to be a very interesting module for those who want to take yoga into a more professional setting.
Yeah, and that module as well, save yourself a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. The experience that cumulative we can share with you through Ryan's teachings. Yeah, they really are going to be something to keep with you forever, especially around how to keep your personal boundaries, how to not get drained, but still to be professional and to be able to monetize your offerings. All right. So in June, we then go into special demographics, and we're going to be looking at 4 main demographic groups, and then we'll be branching into smaller ones as well. So the main ones that most people know, we'll be looking at the elderly, like I already mentioned. We're going to be looking at pregnancy, at kids, and then also at sports people. Now, sports people, it's an interesting one because we're looking at yoga more for functional training, but also it's largely the topic of working with stiffer bodies. So we'll just say stiff bodies. Even though you know, many yogis are also quite stiff, but those are just the main 4 categories we'll be looking at. However, we're going to branch off into niche groups as well. We're going to be looking at how to speak to and how to offer yoga to certain groups like military, and then bigger bodies, and then also mixed groups. So mixed body types, but also mixed mind types. And then also, for example, going into a corporate environment or at an event where you have large numbers of people. Some people don't even know what yoga is. Others have a practice every single day. So these are these kind of niche situations you might find yourself in or step into. And then also how to just measure the progression of private clients. So that's another niche group we're going to go into, is working specifically with one-on-one situations or in one-on-one situations. And private clients, very different to teaching or offering for a group.
It's actually a very underdeveloped aspect of yoga, and that's how I started. Was going more into yoga therapy and working with one-on-one clients on a journey of maybe 8 to 12 weeks of healing a specific part of their body, of weight loss, of blood pressure, whatever it was, and taking them on that journey. So kind of being like a mixture of a personal trainer and a therapist, and really catering for one person. It's a very interesting thing to do, and it's very rewarding because you can see measurable progress. Yeah.
And just one more thing on that module, it's 50 hours is definitely not enough to get all the experience. This is just going to give you an idea of it. But then you have to actually step out, like with all of them. You've got to step out and actually put yourself into those situations. So Ryan and I have been incredibly blessed to have almost dived in the deep end really early on in our teaching. I was working in mental health clinics as well. And then from that one extreme, working on extreme sporting events out in the bush. And so just to have to apply my skill as a yoga teacher, my knowledge, but to be able to communicate it to the audience so that they could understand and become inclusive in the yoga and not just create more exclusivity with it.
Great. And then in July, the theme for July is advancing your knowledge on Ayurveda. This is one of our favorite topics, definitely one of my favorite topics, and I know that it's one that's always interesting people. Those of you who've done the Ayurveda training in your 200-hour, to some extent, you ain't seen nothing yet. All right, it gets really, really exciting. We're going to summarize the gunas and the doshas, but on a completely different level now, much deeper, because you weren't able to do this earlier on in your training because you're still acquiring the vocabulary. Now you've got it. You are also understanding Ayurveda more in your own body and life. Now you're also applying it to your students as well. So it's more applicable as a yoga teacher. We're going to be going into what are called the Shatkarma Kriyas, the 6 traditional Hatha yoga cleansing techniques of medieval yoga. Those of you who have done the module 3 retreat with me, you know I always allude to it with this mischievous, spooky voice, and now you're actually going to be doing it. So we're going on to the information on that. We're going to touch on yogic fasting, yogic medicine using herbs and spices. Just want to admit Ellen into the room. We're going to be going into the 5 vayus, the 5 winds of the body. This is not information that you can easily access anywhere. This comes from years and years and years of study and devotion to these topics. We're going to be going into the cycles of the sun and the moon quite deeply because of that relation to the ha and ta, and how that works in your own personal life and practice, your energies, and especially for women as well, learning how to dance with the rhythm of the moon and the sun. Then seasonal living, a little touch on yoga therapy, which is in itself an entire system. It's magnificent. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing on the Advancing Ayurveda. It's going to be really, really exciting.
Very juicy module that I'm definitely joining. All right, and then in August, we are looking at advanced pranayama. Now, I just want to say that an advanced pranayama yogi is probably never going to be seen. They're going to be sitting in a cave, or the traditional idea of the cave, and they're going to be deep, deep, deep within their meditation. So just a bit of a disclaimer there, that you might end up a very advanced yogi sitting in a cave. But basically, you could just say it's pranayama in depth, because again, in your 200 hours, you're still learning all these interesting things about the breath and how that relates to our mind and our body. Now we're able to work with this subtle body. So we really have to have an understanding first of the subtle body, and also be able to connect to the subtle body. So not just cognitively understanding what it's all about, but have an experience already of the subtle body. So we're going to be recapping the nervous system, but going a bit deeper as well, to really understand what's happening in the anatomy when the pranayama is at a certain level, and the prana within the body, and then just outside. And we're going to be looking at why you would want to do certain techniques, when to do them. Very important. They're not just sort of thumb suck a technique and then do that on this day or in this class. Very specific. So you're working again hand in hand with Ayurveda. There's specific times you do it within the cycle of the world around us, but also within your own cycle wherever you are at that time. So we do go into that in quite a bit of depth. Then specifically how to teach pranayama as well. Yeah. This is a part where I find a lot of teachers, just having done their 200-hour training, they still haven't had the experience for themselves. Of course, you're not going to have the confidence then to try and teach it. So this is going to give you how to cue, the subtleties around observing other people when they are doing it, and just the right time. And then, yeah, just the correct instruction of how to do that. We also go quite deep into energy anatomy, which is absolutely fascinating. And then again, when to apply and why even to use that in general. So your prana is absolutely connected to your chakras and to your aura. So we're looking at using prana and pranayama to cleanse again. So the whole point of Hatha Yoga is to bring the body and the energies into a state of harmony and balance so that we can be a little bit more centered for, if your purpose of yoga is for self-realization, then for that, or just to be a kinder, more loving person.
Thank you. And you know, what I want to mention is so important with what Fran was saying was that by the end of a 200-hour, your pranayama knowledge is, you know the name, you know the technique and how it works. But people, as she said, are not really sure on how to teach it yet. That's why this is a very important module for those of you who really want to dive into meditation as a part of your work. All right, then in September, we're going into a module on mantra and sound that I'm going to be running. We dive into the theory of the sound vibration of the universe. We're going into the movement of energy and how that works, why voice has been used regardless of the sacred tradition around the world since the beginning, since the dawn of humankind. And we start to learn exactly what mantra is, what's the difference between mantra and chanting, how to use the voice correctly to create a physiological and a neurological response within the body, because people think that chanting is just like a woo-woo thing, but it's got nothing to do with any woo-woos. It's very physiological. It has a very, very biomechanical response within you. And that's why after a period of chanting, you open your eyes and you feel like, whoa, there's this euphoria, there's an altered state of consciousness. So I'm teaching you how to do that, how to teach it, and how to do it properly so that it has the desired result. Of course, we'll go into some knowledge on sound and sacred sound, and using that correctly within a yoga class or a context, and also the use of silence, and when to be talking in a class and when to hold silence as well. Very important.
All right, and then our final module is in October, and this is Yoga Nidra, the yoga of sleep. And this is, again, one of my most favorite topics to be presenting, because it is just absolutely important and incredible as a tool for coping, especially to be able to calm the nervous system. So we're learning how to do it for ourselves first, understanding how to go through all the different layers of consciousness consciously without falling asleep, how to hold ourselves there, understanding how this relates to the nervous system, neurologically, the different brain waves. So we'll be going into that in quite a bit of depth. Where this fits into the limbs of yoga, this becomes one of our internal yogas now. This is the point of pratyahara, with withdrawing the energies to a degree so that they can all be maintained here as opposed to very externally. So we're going to be looking also at how to facilitate ourselves without using sound or audio. So we're going from a module on sound and vibration externally, almost as a precursor, one could say, to then going internally into that silence. It's a very deep state of rest and of nourishment. And in today's world, there couldn't be, I mean, I would always recommend breath as a tool, but I think Yoga Nidra absolutely trumps pranayama and sound when it comes to just giving that nourishment to calm the nervous system down, and it can be done in a relatively short amount of time.
It's a medicine. It's completely a medicine. And you know, the way in which we designed the modules for this course, even though you can do them in any order you want, at any pace you want, we have designed them so that they begin from the most gross, or the most, you know, we start by going into like philosophy and money and the body.
Most obvious.
It's quite, yeah, and then it works up through the layers of the koshas, through the modules, to a more refined. We're going through the levels of subtlety through the course. So the way in which we projected the modules out, there's method to the madness. Good. So we have a few more minutes for any other questions and answers. Is there anything you guys would like to know about what we've discussed now or earlier? Okay.
I saw the retreat is in Haga Haga. Is that right? It's next to. Would we have to get there in our own costs, so flying or driving? We would, obviously. So I think it's Dharma. Is it? It's quite close to Hugger Hugger, or not? Am I wrong?
So I think you might have jumped onto my website's page with the 200-hour teacher training.
Okay.
There, and I'm offering that a retreat at Kuladama in Hugger Hugger in the Eastern Cape. So our retreat for the 300-hour graduation in November is in the Western Cape.
Oh, is it in the Western Cape? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, although Eastern Cape would be lovely to go and spy on you there. I would love to go and check that out.
You're all welcome.
Let's all go
And
and
then,
jump in.
Ideally, I would like to do all modules, but my finances can only sustain half of it, most likely. So I want to know when. My biggest thing is when is like the final thing I can do the payments for everything, but I don't know. I'm a little bit slow with finances. With my brain struggles to. It's just a bit slow. So I want to know if I can pay. So I must pay the deposit if I'm doing a month before. I must make sure that I've paid half of all of the money for the 4. Is that correct? And then a month before each module. Is that right?
Okay, so I get your question, thank you, and it's a good one because it does get confusing with the deposits and then the full payment by which date. Let's just work a bit backwards from when the module starts. A month before the module starts, you have to have done full payment. Okay, you can just pay everything in one go for that module a month before, at least. To secure your spot there as a commitment to yourself and to start planning, and for us as well to start planning and to commit you onto the training, we do require a deposit. So your deposit can be 2 weeks before your final payment, but all your payment for that module, if you're doing module by module payment, must be a month before the training starts for that module. Does that answer your question, Janine? Okay, cool. If there's a similar question, please don't be shy to ask, because that's why we're doing this webinar. And it maybe just the way we've used our language is a bit confusing. So it helps us as well just to fine tune how we put it across. So please ask, even if it's a very similar question. All right, what is the price per module? Okay, Diana, the price per module is 3,950 South African Rand. 3,950 Rand. So
maybe Fran, just if you could give them these numbers.
So that's the module by module payment. If you're wanting to break down your financial commitments to the training, if you have a little bit more of a chunk readily available, then you can do the 1 year option. If you're going to complete the training in 1 year over 3 installments. Each installment will then be 8,900 Rand, spaced out over 1 year, 3 months apart. If you have the capital available, then you can pay for the training in one go, 22,500.
Which is, you know, most 300-hour teacher trainings will start at 38 to 40,000 Rand minimum, and you can go and check it out. A quality training anyway. I'm not talking like through some random little. But we've maintained that we want to keep the price down. So actually, we're charging the price of what would actually be a 200-hour teacher training for a 300-hour, because we really want yogis to get quality education, and we don't want the money to be an obstacle. Okay. Good question, Diana. Thank you. I will send these numbers all to you via email straight after this webinar. Anybody else for content or numbers or dates or locations or anything like that?
You described quite a lot of the modules. Did you describe all 8, or was that 6 that you described there? I didn't quite keep a count.
Okay, I'll recap. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we did do all 8. Maybe we didn't talk long enough on each one. So just to recap, so in March, we have Advanced Philosophy with Ryan. In April, we have Advanced Applied Anatomy and Physiology with me. In May, we have Yoga in a Professional Context with Ryan. In June, we have Special Demographics with me. In July, Ayurveda with Ryan. In August, Advanced Pranayama with me. In September, Mantra and Sound with Ryan. And in October, Yoga Nidra with me. So there's your 8 modules.
Thanks.
Good summary, Annie. Great summary of
Well,
those. Thank you.
Made by Fran, obviously.
All good, all good.
Thank you, Annie. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. Just wondering if I haven't been able to go.
Sorry, I'm just going to stop that question because we can't actually hear. Can we just do who is speaking?
There.
Let's just go here.
There we go. Who was speaking there? Oh, Ellen.
Ellen, for some reason we can't hear you now. Can you just try adjust your mic? Otherwise, you can type in the chat box. Give it one more try on your mic. No. Type it out.
Or you could do a charades.
Yeah, that also works.
Okay, well, Ellen's going to type it out for us. In the meantime, anybody else? Trish, you've been very quiet.
And Shalani.
And Shalani.
We need at least one question from each of you.
I'm just listening, right? So
Okay.
if you have any questions, I know pretty much not the 300 hours, but what you've told me. So I'm fine. It's lovely to see Ellen and Annie and Shalani. Nice to meet you online. But apart from that, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Trish. Thank you. And Shalani, welcome.
All right. So here we
Yes,
have the
hello.
question
I've been
from
here the
Ellen.
whole time.
Lovely to see
I don't
you.
have a question. Yeah, you too. I don't actually have a question. I just felt really inspired, actually. All of those modules sound absolutely incredible, and if I could, I would jump on it right now. But I think I will do it. You know, it has inspired me to finish, you know, the one that I'm doing now, and I think that would be a goal for me, is to do the whole 500 as soon as I can. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. I was struggling to hear you, but I got you at the end. Shalani,
Okay.
you know, I think it is inspiring, and that's the reason why we had this webinar now, because even though most of you are still currently in your 200-hour training, and that is all you need to focus on right now. That is your main focus. There's so much beautiful work there for you. It's always nice to know in our mind and in our heart what comes next. You know, where is this going? Where can this progress towards? So that you kind of just have a little vision and a plan for yourself. So right now, you just enjoy the juice of the 200 hours, and then you've got exciting stuff coming in that next level. You've got exciting stuff. So thank you,
Yes.
Shalani.
Thank you as well.
Cool, thank you. Ellen, if you haven't gone on the retreat for the 200-hour training yet, you need to have the 200-hour certification before you can begin with the 300-hour course. The reason being is because what we go through on that 1 week retreat away together, it can't be replaced. And that preparation on that week away in the 200-hour retreat time is a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot of vocab there. There's a lot of information. So you need to have qualified and written the final exams on the 200-hour in order to jump onto the 300-hour. Otherwise, you won't have the context anyway. You wouldn't have the context to be able to enjoy the 300-hour without the 200 yet.
So yeah, it's just something that we had to decide on, and we only inviting as a prerequisite. We're only inviting those that have a 200-hour certification. This is not just for you to know, but anybody else who might hear about this training. We take any 200-hour certification. You just have to have that behind you. So we're all kind of starting on the same page.
Yeah. Wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much. You've got my email address. If you have any further questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out all the information that we've given you tonight via email. This webinar has been recorded, so I'm going to share it with the rest of the students and the alumni so everyone else can watch it at a later date. Thank you so much for being here tonight, for your questions, for helping us to clarify for you, and sending you love.
And there's a few that are going to be watching this that also are coming from different schools and different sources, so please also just get in contact with one of us, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that come up for you.
Yes, you don't have to have done training with me or with Fran in order to do this 300-hour. As long as you've got an internationally accredited 200-hour through an international affiliation, you can do this course. You don't have to have studied with us before. Okay. Great, guys. Have a beautiful evening. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.